Welcome back to Junction 119. This is Kellan,
This is Casen.
and we are back for the second week in a row, and I don't know how long, but, but here we are. How you doing, man?
Good, good. I just uh, some changes in my professional life, about so I just working through that.
Yeah, congratulations on those changes. I won't say what they are per
Thank
se,
you.
but I have come right here on this cast like what three times and said I just started a new job today, and since we've had this show, so yeah, but we've got a loaded lineup today. We are going to give you a little bit of everything. We are going to start in sports. We're going to touch on some pop culture things. We're going to delve outside of the world of both, but more of a pop culture. We're going to get into the gaming space. We have a few things on the docket. And then we're going to finish things up by reviewing, not episode by episode, but we're just going to catch up on where Daredevil is right now because we are one episode away from the finale. So that'll be at the end of the show. We timestamp everything. So if you want to go listen to things in whatever order you want to, but we're going to begin today by acknowledging the end of March Madness. Yet another year has gone by. Uh, I think we should talk like acknowledge men's, and then we'll talk the women's as well. But
hmm
uh, some dominant performances, man. But I will say the men's tournament, the men's Final Four, didn't disappoint. Thoughts on any of that to start?
No, yeah, I mean, I'll
Open
just
up the
kind of give
stage,
a,
bro.
I'll just kind of give a, overarching, thing of the structure. It's talked a lot about, you can either have a really, really good, uh semifinals or a really good, championship game. And this year we got all three.
Yeah, we
Um,
did. We did.
so
We sat right
the
here and discussed how in college football it might be impossible for that to ever necessarily happen.
mhm,
That's the one thing I think that we got to check ourselves and say you do get the highest potential of when you have four ones in the tournament for the first time since '08, right?
mhm.
It's likely that you are not going to get the disparaging or one hot team versus another good team. We had three good games solidly,
Yeah.
including in one where I was genuinely surprised. Hats off Florida outlasting Auburn on one side. I had that in my bracket. And then I did not see the other one coming. I thought Duke was going to defeat Houston.
Yep.
Houston showed me a lot. Duke kind of completely collapsed, which I was reminded, probably like you were, whenever a school like Duke loses in the tournament, I am reminded of the tsunami of jokes and vitriol that is sent their way via the internet that I'm always blown away by. And I'm like, my feed just, I'm like, I'm not even a Duke hater yet. My entire feed is just dunking on them.
It is very funny because they've made a ton of Final Fours in the last like 10 years, but they haven't been able to win anything
No.
since that.
Since
So like
2012, I think. No, 12, 13,
15,
14, 15. It was
15.
15
Yep.
because I remember junior year of college.
Yeah.
And they weren't necessarily being picked to win that one. That's the other thing that was poignant. I remember a lot of folks saying that they weren't necessarily sure that Coach K's squad was going to get through, but ultimately Cooper Flagg's squad didn't get through either, falling to the Cougars of the University of Houston. And then of course we got solid national championship game as well. That I will admit that because of circumstances, I was only able to watch like the last 3 minutes of. But then again, at the same time, I was like, "And this is all I need." I mean, I get how this is gonna go. And go ahead.
Yeah, no, I mean I didn't get to see all of it either, but from what I could, could tell, like it seemed like Houston kind of led most of the way and kind of controlled a lot of the game.
Yep,
And then kind of similar to their game with Duke, like they ended up just kind of falling apart at the worst possible time at the very end.
they did, but also I must say, you got to commend Florida. I mean,
Yeah.
they're the team that I will say if you start making mistakes, we'll take every single advantage. We'll actually capitalize on
hmm
every single one, and that's essentially what happened. We got to talk about that last possession just briefly because we both saw it,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I don't know how to feel because having watched so many things, I'm like, I get that they couldn't call a timeout, but for them to be in a stifling situation where they don't even get a shot off in the last like 12 seconds or whatever it was, brutal to see. And I know they tried to commend it during the broadcast. I'm sorry, Florida's defense did not do anything profound. They were playing pretty solid perimeter defense, but I'm like, how on earth did this team not? How did Houston not get a shot up? Which to commend Houston, I appreciate that they were just straight up saying, let's just play for the win. Um, it's clear to me. I'm like, yeah, they were only going to take a three here. We either win it or we don't.
Yeah.
Which I can appreciate because I don't want any part of an overtime with Florida either.
Right, right.
uh,
Well, and like the thing too is some there was some people saying that they should have just picked up the ball because
mm,
maybe they don't call it and you get away with it. And
right.
even if they do, then you immediately foul to and hope they miss to get another shot.
Just get a
Uh,
shot.
so
Well, the dude who jumped in the air to like do the pump fake, I'm like, that dude just should have let it go. That dude just should have put it up. Even if it's an ugly shot, throw it towards the rim and just have all your rebounders jump in there to try and, do the putback or at least to tie it, but to not even get a shot off. I mean, that was like, oh no, oh no. And when he was like out there, he's like he couldn't touch the ball. I was like, it was just tough to watch. It's tough to watch. But
yeah, I think it's a Tugler. I think is his name. He fouled out with like a minute and a half left or something, and I knew that was going to be a problem.
yeah.
Um,
But shout out to Walter Clayton Jr. as we talked about him and the rest of the squad at Florida. I will say, and to some degree on the women's side too, over at UConn, though Gino's got them amazingly. It really did feel at the end of the tournament like, okay, we have officially reached a point in college athletics where truly the richest team is just going to win. Um, I get all four of
mhm.
those programs kind of fit that category, right? I get it, but I was like, this really did feel like four teams worth of NBA players facing off, and I don't know for that get for those for as good as those three games were for me for that feeling to cap off what was I think we sat here a week ago and said was a relatively underwhelming tournament. I thought, well, at least we got three good games out of it for like the pseudo NBA team to win again. So a pseudo NBA team to win again. But then again, that's kind of how it works with
Yeah, yeah. I
tournament.
mean, sure. I just think that it's impressive just for what Todd Golden's been able to do with the program. Just considering, that like they haven't really done anything in a while. So
Since 0607 around this time.
they made the Final Four in 2014, but other than that, yeah.
Well, their phrase "Gator Boys stay hot." I like whenever heralding. I with what I do, especially for work. I like when future iterations of a program herald the great ones from the past. It's like when I was the SID for Bowling Green hockey, and we were going to the NCAA tournament, and a couple of the guys were wearing things that commended the 1984 national championships guys.
Hmm.
And I was like, that's just really cool. There was one dude on the team who had a backwards hat on that said Bowling Green National Champions 1984. I was like, this is awesome. This is really cool because we have won this tournament before. So,
Hmm.
and I can tell you, like, around here, that's definitely how it feels among basketball, especially when Cleveland rolls around. Cleveland, as in the MAC tournament. So,
Hmm.
um, it's just the program swag. I like different eras of the program paying homage to the other one. Also noteworthy that the architect of those back-to-back Florida teams, Billy Donovan, was officially inducted into the Naismith Hall of Fame, like over the weekend, right?
Oh
So
yeah, yeah.
thought that was cool. Also, shout out to Carmelo; he's part of that too, part of this class. But I thought that was pointing. I'm like, oh, so overall, just a good week if you're Florida oriented.
Hmm.
Commend the seasons of the other three. Caps off another great year of college basketball. Moving to the women, I did want to say it was total domination by UConn. I mean, it was as impressive as anything among their dynastic runs in the late '90s into the 2000s. I mean, up there at the greats. But I mean, for both South Carolina and UCLA to essentially not even have a chance to defeat that team, to where it was, and this is so unfair to those programs, but like I watched a lot of the UCLA game between UConn and UCLA, and that game was truly over. Felt like in the second quarter, and it really was. It was almost embarrassing to know how well those two teams had played, and in South Carolina's case, literally defending champions, and just have no squad, or excuse me, no chance against a squad that just wouldn't be denied between Page and and all of the
Yeah,
Warpath Yukon Huskies of
it's
2025.
it's definitely really weird that that they were a 2 seed. I don't really
Yeah, I don't get that
understand
either.
that.
I think that, and honestly, you really want to give this team more bulletin board material, make them a 2 seed in this tournament. I mean, I don't know. I mean, and for that, I believe UCLA was also a 1 seed, correct? Because UConn was the only team
I believe,
among the four.
they're the
Yeah,
only 2 seed.
they
Yeah.
were the only 2 seed, and it just so weirdly did not feel that way. I'm like UCLA. This is really weird, and for a 2 seed to just blow them off the floor.
Yeah, I mean their losses were they lost to Notre Dame, number 8 at the time, Notre Dame, uh on the road. They lost to number 7 at the time, USC, by 2, and then they lost at number 19, Tennessee, by 4. So they had one kind of bad loss, but then the other two were super close. In addition, I think in addition, they beat a ton of ranked teams too. And so it was super weird and bizarre that was something that they were held against, or that they were uh that was held against them in the seating. But
I will say this: I don't know how much longer Gino Auriemma coaches the Yukon Huskies, but I mean, I'm not hard pressed to sit here and think, okay, yeah, I heard some people saying, in what could be his last championship. I'm like, I mean, maybe, but who's to say he couldn't do this like 2 years from now, or even next year? I mean, my goodness. So
yeah, exactly. Oh, no, this is what I was looking for.
yeah,
They yeah, UConn beat South Carolina in February
yes, they
by
did.
an equally massive margin. Like it's like the same score.
Correct. And people were
And
talking about that going into that game.
and like UConn, so at the time, UConn was 7 and South Carolina was 4, and then UConn moved up to 5 and South Carolina dropped to 6.
Yeah,
And so it's like what? They got killed.
yeah.
And it was like what?
The drop, the drop
And then
probably should
South
have been
Carolina got the 1 seed. I don't get it. I don't understand it. I
right.
think it was a thing where they were just still on the South Carolina hype, and I
Hey,
think people kind of forgot what UConn was about.
well, yes, and UConn basketball in general. I mean, what a 3 years between the two men's championships back to back, and now Gino and Page and them back on top. It's been incredible, and yeah, I think I texted you guys. What a bunch of absolute queens, like absolute no denial. Let's put it to bed. We are the best team this year, and I was like, okay, yeah, geez, okay, take the championship, take it. We that's what I was thinking, and it's funny because I think Paige Beckers was on Jimmy Fallon last night. We're recording this on a Thursday, so
Mhm.
Wednesday, so it was pretty cool to see her come out with the trophy and go up into the crowd, and everyone was touching it and stuff like that. So, um, and the WNBA draft is like what next week? I believe potentially by our next show, it'll be either underway or has just passed. So
I think so. It's super close to the. Let me see if I can find that.
because I remember the Masters weekend was going to kind of split split the end of the season and the WNBA draft.
Yes, it is the 14th. So it is this weekend.
It is this weekend, kind of beginning of next
Or
weekend.
Monday, sorry.
It's
Monday.
Monday.
Yeah.
It's a few days from when you'll see
Thought it
this.
was
So
Sunday.
so by the
Yeah.
time our next show comes around, you'll be able to get our takes on a bit of that as well. So any final thoughts on the college basketball season, my friend? Because we need to shift into the NBA.
Yeah, I mean, I people complained about how it was kind of a boring tournament, but that made for a really, really fun Final Four,
It
and
did
on both sides. So yeah,
indeed.
I mean,
Now, shifting into this NBA story that I really want to get your take on it because between the two of us, you're more the NBA head here in terms of just paying attention to the league, personnel, coaches, who's where, and you have been throughout the entirety of our friendship, really. And part of that stems from I'm not from an NBA town. I don't. I'm a Bulls fan. Shout out one of my banners over there, but it's pseudo, and it's not like I root for in a contending way for a team that has contended anytime recently. And so when stories like this come around, I'm kind of relying on you to give me a bit of backstory that I may not have known. I can read up on it myself, but the Nuggets have fired head coach Michael Malone and GM Calvin Booth. I believe that is his name, correct? They have
Hmm.
fired both guys in the same move. We are, what, 2 weeks away, less than 2 weeks away from the start of the playoffs. The Nuggets are still the Nuggets with Nikola Jokic and still very much contenders. And I have my own overarching thoughts about it, but I think they come from a place of ignorance, which is why I would like to hear you discuss this. What are your thoughts?
Well, yeah, I mean, first, let me kind of start with like I don't really have a good explanation
Mm,
as far as anything that is plausibly basketball related, if that makes sense. So I think there's a lot of extenuating circumstances and other reasons that could have gone into this, and I don't think it's entirely, I don't think hardly any of the decision was basketball related. Because they lost a couple games in a row, but I mean I don't that is not a big enough reason to fire your championship winning coach. So there's that. I'll say the big thing that I've seen is that there's, kind of two theories. One is that there's some kind of crime involved here,
oh,
or
okay.
some kind of Ime Udoka type of activity. I don't know that it's just that's a thing that comes up whenever something like this happens, and I doubt it because there were two, like they both got involved or they both were fired, so the likelihood of them both being involved in that, I don't think is high. The only thing that I've seen that makes sense to me is apparently they Calvin Booth, the general manager, and Michael Malone, the head coach, hated each other.
Yeah,
They never spoke. They worked. They did not work well at all together. I think it was getting to the point where it was becoming distracting from what I've heard.
sure.
I
Yeah.
don't know. And so to me, I don't know if that's reason enough to fire both of them, especially when like your coach is good. Like Michael Malone's immediately going to get a job. I can promise you that.
Yeah.
Um, I,
Give it like 3 months
the
or so, but yeah.
yeah, the other thing too is I don't know. I mean, it reminds me of like the Brown season. It was Baker Mayfield's rookie season when they fired Hugh Jackson, and then everybody was like, "Oh, okay, so Todd Haley's going to be like interim coach," and because there was a well documented like butting of heads between Hugh Jackson and Todd Haley,
Yeah.
going back to the Hard Knocks, because like you saw it in Hard Knocks was
Yeah.
that
It
Todd
was
Haley
part
did
of, yeah.
not mesh, and so the assumption for like an hour and a half was going to be that Todd Haley was going to be the interim coach, and then Todd Haley got fired. And so it's kind of the thing where these two don't get along, so we're just going to get rid of both of them to not pick a side for a winner. Which
That's a good comparison.
I mean, in the Brown circumstances, I wish they would have just hired Todd Haley as interim coach because then they would have never hired Freddie Kitchens as interim coach to then hire him as the actual coach to then fire him. So,
It almost
but anyway,
reminds,
I digress.
I get it. It almost reminds me, I'm pretty sure there is a direct decision plot point that in NBA 2K23 story mode literally pits you between the GM and the head coach, where
Hmm.
whoever you side with, essentially, it starts a chain of events that eventually leads to that one's firing.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to me because it's like whoever you like more, and they're two very different characters. And it was I forget. I think in the situation that I was leaning towards, I think I ended up siding with the head coach, and the GM got replaced. And I just think to myself, I know a thing or two about this industry, but I don't know about it as much in the way of professional sports, and I am perfectly fine with that for the time being. But it really is amazing to me. I think how often such rash decisions are made because of egos and people working together or not working together, and we're talking about major moves like firing basically your whole two pillars of your front office before the playoffs start
Hmm.
where it's like, okay, give it to the interim guy because this season's basically over anyway, no matter what way you slice it. I almost understand that. But I also think to myself, yeah, but there's an integral way to handle things. And I can't help but think of this being strange also in the same season where or not Nikola Jokic, where Luka Doncic was just shipped out of town for nothing seemingly to appease the owner of the Dallas Mavericks. And it was done within a couple of months of each other. And I'm thinking to myself, these are major business team decisions being made for incredibly selfish reasons. And it's
Yeah.
like and it's absurd to me. Like I'm sorry, but like I haven't seen moves like this in any other league lately. I mean, you see those rash decisions being made, but what is going on in the NBA this season?
It's definitely
What's
been
happening?
yeah, it's definitely been like a bizarre headline season. I mean, this is like the third or fourth time we've talked about this in like the last year. Like, I mean, going back to the Bucks hiring
Yeah,
Doc Rivers in the
good
middle of
point.
the season for like no reason. I mean, it's become a trend, and but this is especially late. I mean, like it's playoff time,
Yeah.
so it.
You guys can't
But
the
I
owner, I'm
will.
like, you can't let these two guys who hate each other just stick it out for potentially 3 to 4, 2 more months,
I
maybe win
know.
another title.
I will say as well. I would add on to that. The president and CEO of the Denver Nuggets is Josh Kroenke,
Hmm.
Stan Kroenke's son.
Yes, it is.
Josh Kroenke, by being Stan Kroenke and Amy Walton's son, he is heir to Walmart and heir to the Kroenke family fortune. So he's like I would be I he has to be a very like seasoned and smart guy to know the situation. And because they've been winning championships lately. I
And
mean,
we have to be real about one major thing. The Cronky group knows how to win titles.
yeah.
They're a
I
successful
mean,
ownership group, no matter what way you slice it, they
yeah.
are. Regardless
Yeah.
of their business practices and things they've done, they objectively have winning teams. In the last 2 to 3 years, they've won a Stanley Cup and a NBA championship. And they have Arsenal back doing amazing. And the
Hmm.
LA Rams, going back to LA
Yep.
Rams. So
Yep.
they've been on a string. I mean, if you actually look at all the titles they have, not to digress, case and continue, but you're right.
No, no, I
Good
was just
point.
gonna say I was just gonna say that like they have winning teams everywhere. I
Yep.
mean, Arsenal hype for example finished second last year.
Yep.
And so it's just like
They've successfully brought Arsenal
they
back.
they know how to run winning teams. And so this is not if this was a move they felt like they had to make, I would trust Josh Kroenke and because I'm sure he talked to his dad about it too. I mean, this wasn't a I
Yeah.
mean, I'm sure this was a lot of,
His
consulting
dad,
within the
Stan. Yeah,
family.
that's right.
And so I would imagine this was probably a difficult decision, but my guess is that something happened.
Yeah.
It feels like it was probably brewing all season, and with them being in a bit of a skid with I mean they were I think kind of they're on the edge for home court, so they were battling to maintain fourth. And so being on a bit of a losing streak, kind of limping into the playoffs isn't great mojo for sure. And
Yeah.
so I can understand it of if internally there's a lot of stuff going on that the outside world isn't privy to, and it got to the point where it was a lot, and then maybe there was a particular incident between the two that you just could not come back from. I can definitely understand that. And the timing is just bad.
The
I mean,
timing's bad. You're right, Case, and it might have been someone took a situation a little too far. There was maybe a little bit of retaliation, and it's sort of like, I'm sorry, you both got to go. This is like
yeah.
you shouldn't have reacted that way, and you shouldn't have done it in the first place. So I can totally see that. And on top of that, the toxicity is probably bleeding into the locker room, bleeding
Yeah.
into the performance of the team, and it's like, okay, I'm sorry, timing's terrible. Both you got to go because I would rather get you both out of the building and do what we can with the interim guys with the toxicity gone than keep this around and potentially completely derail Philadelphia Eagles style of a few years ago in the playoffs. Sorry. Hey, listen, they just caught us. They just won a Super Bowl. They can catch a stray from me. It's fine.
Yeah. No, I mean,
It's true.
I mean,
I
it's
think
just,
it's
it's the
probably
thing. I
that.
mean,
You're probably right. That's probably what it was.
and also too, I would be hard pressed to believe this wasn't a thing that they ran past Jokic first,
Oh, they did.
and probably Jamal Murray too.
Yeah,
Of just
and
like,
apparently Jokic was quoted as saying he understands why.
yeah,
Whatever that means. I mean, that's probably was his whole
I
statement on the.
just to paint a picture, like I'm not saying I'm not. This is all hypothetical. I'm not saying anything of the sort happened. I'm just saying
Yeah.
I could see a situation to where they lose a game, go back to the locker room. Booth comes in screaming at Michael Malone. Maybe hands get thrown. Maybe they make contact and there's some kind of physical incident. Who knows? But that's the and like that's in front. Maybe that's in front of players.
And the
And
players have to
so
like break it up or
yeah,
something. Yeah, I can see
like
that.
that is a thing you cannot come back from. If like the
I agree.
players have to separate the coach and GM, like
And
I'm just
neat
saying. But
and instead of having to make a move by you're picking a side like that mission like that like decision in the game I was telling you
yeah,
about, actually we're just going to let you both go. We'll hire a new GM who will hire a new coach in the coming season. And this
yeah.
season will be what it'll be. Which look out for that. If the Nuggets come out like absolutely firing here soon and just look like they're on the
Which
path to another title, which could
which
totally happen.
for what it's worth, I mean the guy that they promoted as their interim has been an assistant for like 8 years there,
Uh,
so
so
he'll be able to maintain some level of
he's
consistency.
like, man, give me the clipboard.
Um,
I got this.
yeah, yeah,
Let's go do this, man. That's cool. That's interesting. So keep your eyes on that. Wanted to get your take on that. Thought it was weird timing. I only brought up the Doncic thing because it's just another strange move in a year. We already unpacked all that.
it's been a weird couple years in
And
the
it was on
NBA
my
for
brain because literally this week, Doncic made his return to the Mavericks, and I know they're trying or his return to Dallas since that trade happened. And I don't know about you, but just watching him watch his tribute video was absolutely heartbreaking because I know they're doing this to honor him and everything, but this just feels like this should not have happened. You know?
yeah.
How on earth is this guy watching a tribute video to him in absolute tears to where he can barely watch it? Before he went out and dropped 48 points, as he should. But
Yeah.
that's the other thing. But I just think to myself, this just feels. I feel like I just feel bad about this. I feel bad for him. You know, like I feel like this shouldn't be the case. But anyway, I digress. Um, we got a choice here, Casen. I have a gaming story on the docket next, and then I have acknowledgments before we get into Daredevil. You want to just keep that order, or you want to knock out the sports things first?
Uh, let's go. Let's keep on sports, and then we'll use that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just flowing right into it. So the reason I'm wearing this hat is because this is probably the last week I really can. Now the Penguins are still playing. But the Pens have had a few cool performances towards the end of the year here. Not going to make the playoffs. It is what it is. But I want to pay tribute to another thing that happened since our last show, and that is the Washington Capitals. Alex Ovechkin, a GOAT in his own right, and kind of one half of the Ovi Crosby era, Crosby Ovi era, whatever you want to call it, actually surpassed a record that a lot of people said would never be broken, and it
Hmm.
did. And it was by no means easy, but I mean, with the amount of goals he scores per year, I'm like, I mean, eventually he's probably going to hit this, and he did. He broke Wayne Gretzky's all-time NHL goals record of career goals, which was 894 to score his 895th. And when it actually happened, his celebration of it was like hilarious, by the way, because most things he does are amazing. I just, as a Penguins fan, wanted to say that I felt great to see him break that because let's be real. Ovi and Crosby are on their way out of the league here in the next
Hmm.
probably 3 to 4 years window. And I just it's cool when something gets broken that a lot of people said we will never be broken, and Ovi's still going. I mean, whatever he ends up with will be the new record, and it's awesome to know that hey, we lived and saw the entire career of a guy who is going to be probably the all-time goals leader for the rest of our lives. So that's awesome, is it not? That's pretty sweet.
Yeah, I mean definitely definitely insane to see. And he's still like 1,000 points behind Gretzky's total point record.
Yeah, the points. Yeah, the points is different. That's like
Yeah,
that's
the
never
points is never happening.
that's never happening.
Yeah.
Back when there were just random Joe Schmoes off the street playing hockey at times. I mean, like, yeah, but I mean, they were still skilled hockey players, but he still put up numbers that were stupid. So it's like, all right, well, but it was awesome. I mean, Gretzky was in the house. It was like a great night for the
Mhm.
NHL in general, and it happened to longtime rival of the Penguins, yes, but also profound respect for him and the Capitals. So, hats off to Ovi.
Yeah,
And
I would
yeah,
say also I credit to John Buccigross who called it in like 2010. He was like,
he did, didn't he?
Ovi could break Gretzky's record here.
That resurfaced this week. I saw that. Like he was the only one to basically say that, and a lot of people were like, "Oh yeah, sure," but he'd have to put up numbers for that amount of time. Well, Ovechkin then did that.
Yeah.
But I just think of all the times that Ovechkin was just chilling at the bottom circle, just ready for his just howitzer of a goal scorer to come through. And I think of the amount of times that it didn't work against, like, say, Marc-Andre Fleury and other,
Mhm.
the amount of times I saw him just get denied against the Penguins, failing to forget that, oh yeah, but he scores that like 9 times out of 10 against the rest of the NHL. So, and then he usually does it like a few more times in the game. So it just makes me think of that. So that's cool. I've seen a few of those 895 goals. So
Yeah, yeah.
against me and in other games against teams I wanted to win, Blue Jackets included. But regardless,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
di- I digress. I digress. Last sports thing I have here, which is kind of the cover sake here of the show, because I just told Casen before we started that I have a Masters green cover, which I joked will look sort of like the Eagles cover we did, but trust me, it's a different shade of green. The Masters has begun. By the time you hear this show, it'll be day two. It'll be Friday of the Masters, and I don't know. I had this thought. I always love watching the Masters. The aura. It's one of those sporting events that definitely has an aura about it. The vibes of the Masters, but I also will go as far as to say this. I don't want this to sound insulting. The Masters and the draw of the Masters completely transcends golf. It completely is almost bigger than the sport that it
Hmm.
is because there are people who tell me all the time, I don't watch golf at all, but I watch the Masters the entirety of the weekend. And I'm like, that's that's like interesting. Golf is still cool during the year, right? Still, I mean, if you're into golf, I mean, I'm into golf because of my mom, which I think I said on this cast before, biggest golf analyst in my own circle, and I always kind of talk about to her about the Masters. But I did want to open it up by kind of asking you, do you kind of feel the same? Are you one of those people, or do you like the Masters beyond or golf beyond the Masters? What do you think?
So yeah, I mean, I understand it because the Masters presentation is different. Like there is a bit of a presentation difference between uh the Masters or say the Genesis Invitational or
That's true.
3M or Waste Management whatever. So I mean there was a bit of a difference.
Yeah,
But and I think that's part of what makes it so special because everybody likes to talk about, all the rules that the Masters has on certain things and just how things are like, antiquatedly particular, but that's also what makes it so special.
yeah.
Like it wouldn't be the Masters if they didn't have all these stupid rules because then it would just be another golf tournament.
How
I
dare you
mean,
call them stupid rules? I'm kidding.
I
I'm
stupid.
I'm
I
messing with
from
you.
yeah,
I
from what people say.
non-traditional
Yeah.
strict rules.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you don't know what
Uh
we're referring to, definitely look up like stuff you can and like cannot do at Augusta
yeah,
because they will remove you.
for example, if you go there for the Masters, there are no cell phones allowed you can't have your cell phone. You have to leave it in your car. But they have like pay phones around the course to make calls if you need to. Um, they there's rules for the broadcasters. Like they aren't allowed to call the people there fans. They have to call them patrons. They
It's not the front nine or the back nine. It's the first nine and the second
Yep,
nine.
yep. And
There was one this
uh,
year that I didn't even realize was a rule. You can't wear your hats backwards at the
yeah,
Masters. And I thought to myself, I also don't think you can wear anything that's overly like inflammatory or attention grabbing.
probably, yeah.
There's a dress code basically. And I
Hmm.
was like, yeah, I guess I was like, yeah, I've never seen anyone wear a backwards hat at the Masters. So yeah, that's definitely a rule. I never knew that before, you know. Um that's another one.
Yeah, I mean, and so it's just all those things add up into kind of adding to the allure and the prestige of the environment, and also the fact that it's at Augusta every year. And I saw some conversations too about like other things would probably be equally as important if they were at the same place every year too. And it definitely
Yeah,
bothers me.
that's
Like
true.
the PGA Championship being at like at a different golf club every single year kind of makes me upset because it's like then because you have random courses like and random places that maybe don't have the best infrastructure for a tournament that big. Like we talked a lot about the Scotty Scheffler incident last year at Valhalla.
Oh man.
I it that's a that's probably a golf club that shouldn't be having something like the PGA Championship. Like it's
Well, and when you hold it the same place for almost 100 years, it's sort of like, well, we know exactly what's going to happen when we're talking little deviations of stuff, if
I
anything.
can add too. That's what makes the Memorial Tournament so big.
Yeah,
The same
memorials.
weekend, the
Yeah,
same place. It's a thing. It is a thing. Like it, and so it's like if you would have the consistency at least at the major or at the at the majors, and then they would be way more prestigious, and you would have people like, all right, you know, I played the course pretty bad last year, but I know what to do. Like you have rivals, or you have the golfers having rivalries with the holes every year, and
yeah.
so you can
If
say like,
yeah,
I don't know, it's you know what I'm saying because
no, I know what
particularly
you're
with the
saying.
Masters,
I
like when you come
think
up with like Rory, you can say Rory's messed up with at hole whatever every year for the last 5 years,
right.
and so
Well,
it's
it's sort of like how when it's sort of like how the hardest the Masters ever got was when they apparently quote unquote tiger proofed it.
yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, well, yeah, because if you tiger proofed it, well, then it's probably insane now to win that thing. And then of course he then won it in
Well,
2019
because like
in the
that's the
comeback.
thing is if you talk about sports, who like that's my point is like with an individual game like golf, who were they playing against? They're playing against the golf course.
Yeah, the course mainly.
So
Yeah,
the course is your opponent, and so if you want to have dramatic and exciting events, you have to have consistent rivalries of opponents. So like
I think that there's something
that's
to
my
be
point.
said for having the majors at the same locations,
Yeah, exactly.
or that, or rotate them between like three locations. I think you could cut down on
Oh
that.
yeah, I wouldn't be opposed to that either. I mean, if you
Yeah,
have for something like the PGA Championship, pick West Coast, Midwest,
yeah,
East, and like have it be some kind of like on cycle
and
thing.
it rotates. Yep.
Yeah,
Well, and part of me is like Oakmont in Pennsylvania is where the U.S. Open is this year, so it's been there a couple times. Shout out my dad because one of those times it was at Oakmont was one of those times that one of my favorite memories of him coming home and saying, "Today I was within 4 feet of Tiger Woods." That was he was literally at one of the hole. I'm like, that's awesome. But like stuff like that, like memories like that. So it moves around the those who are really into golf. That's like a whole thing. I will say I don't know if you could if you could just arbitrarily start that because how do you agree on which course? It's almost like you'd
I
almost
mean it. Yeah.
right. There would be a lot of discourse of, okay, wait a minute, whose idea was it that it's always going to be at Oakmont or that it's always going to be at Frisco or like it's, you know what I mean?
I mean that would be a thing to where there would be some kind of council or whatever that would come together with the commissioner with
The
the
Council
whatever.
of
But
Golf.
I
Yeah.
it, I think well I think you could just ask Jim Nance and Jim Nance could just
Yeah,
decide
no,
that.
Jim. Yeah,
But
actually, I take it all
um
back. Jim Nance could just say, should just actually decide it.
like the US Open needs to be at Pebble Beach every single year.
I can go with that.
I mean,
That would be. I mean, like pick the courses that are pretty. How many times have you been watching some of these courses and it's like this is a disgusting place to play this. Like, it's it's also a testament to how gorgeous Augusta is. But yeah, I think there's something to be said. I have heard a lot of folks say it this week. It's like, man, it would be kind of cool if this was. This is going to be a bad comparison too, but horse racing has a bit of that same aura to it, and it happens at the same three places every year.
well, I mean
There's a
that's
Kentucky Derby, the Preakness, and Belmont, right? Like so,
that's kind of my point. Is
yeah,
that
and
like
people know exactly where they're at, and people go to all three. So you're right. I mean, golf is still kind of that culture that could probably pull that off. It would be cool if one other major decided, you know what? Why don't we just have it here for a few years and see if it sticks and see what happens, you know? But if that was going to happen, that's a tremendous commitment by that course to say, okay, we got to like change it up. Like we gotta maintain it, but we gotta change it
yeah.
around for the right things, like the Masters does, like they do at Augusta, you know. So I did want to point this out. I wanted to return to the rules because I have a few more. If you have a
Oh yeah.
few more raw rules at Augusta, stuff you can't do. No running. You cannot run. Patrons are not able to run anywhere on the golf course. All of these are subject to removal, by the way. People are removed all the time from Augusta. I mean, they're really strict about it. Uh, Obviously, no cell phones. You said that. No coolers are allowed. Obviously, even if you're going to post up in one spot, no coolers. No tipping. The concessions at Augusta are notoriously incredibly cheap, and it's probably because like there's a waiting list for tickets and stuff to even go. But it's notoriously really cheap food, and they have to refuse tips. That's like a thing. People try to tip them all the time, and they refuse them. You're not allowed to tip there. There is a dress code. I'm just trying to see here. Players must wear full length pants. No flags, banners, or signs. No like yelling. No yelling like in between like shots. Like you can't just yell something stupid.
Hmm.
So it makes the broadcast. And it says, it says no ladders, periscopes, things like that. No jeans, no social media from the course, which is also an interesting thing because and this ties into what I was going to talk about today. So for a little while there today, it's the end of the day, I believe. And as of the first round, this is as of Thursday night. Just wanted to pull up the leaderboard. A Kent State alumnus is second on the leaderboard right now. Corey Connors, one of the goats of our men's golf program, and it's something like his eighth time teeing off at the Masters or something like that. But when he was leading today after, and he was in the clubhouse, that was a really cool thing. And I was kind of strategizing with my coworkers of, okay, let's monitor this because depending on how this goes, any photos we get are not going to be directly from the course. It's going to have to come from the cameras or what's provided or whatever because there's no social media on the course. So
Hmm.
it's pretty interesting. I thought it was like, oh wow, this is really really cool. We're strategizing, and so it was funny. There was a moment today for me at work, Casen, that became that moment where watching the Masters at work turns into watching the Masters for work.
Yeah.
That happened really quickly today. So shout out Corey Connors. You got a squad that's rooting for you among many other people, I'm sure. But as of the first day, uh, it's Justin Rose who is the lead at -7, and Connors is tied with Scotty Scheffler at -4. Kind of wild to see. And then the tied for fourth, you got Tyrell, I believe is it Tyrell Hatton of England at -3, and he's tied with Ludwig. So let's see what happens. And he's also tied at 3. So, and that's Bryson DeChambeau also tied at the top. So we'll see what happens. Just wanted to share that today, Casey, and I thought you and listeners would find that cool. So
That's very funny. We're just like oh, wait a minute,
Yeah,
because
yeah. No, that
we've got
well,
to
and
talk about this.
right, and not naming names, but shout out to our golf SID for pointing that out very fast. It was like, all right, so this is fascinating. This is a development we definitely have to have to keep an eye on. So yeah, and if you're not aware, massive golf programs here at Kent State University. So men's and women's, both incredibly, and you know, a lot of Canadian connections as well. So that's what I got on the Masters. Any thoughts closing it out as we move into the weekend? I'm going to enjoy watching it as I do every year.
uh, yeah, absolutely.
Cool, cool, cool. Well, we're going to flip to a pop culture topic before we get into Daredevil that I wanted to bring up with you, Casen, because I've seen so much discussion about it over the last week. And it has to do with, you know them, some people love them, Nintendo. Nintendo has officially put the specs and information out about the Switch 2. It was during one of their showcases that have kind of replaced E3. If you're not familiar with
Mhm.
E3, E3 was the big gaming convention that happened every summer. COVID kind of killed it, honestly, and it's just become a thing where the companies just release videos and things of what they're working on, the montage of trailers. I'm sure it's much more efficient for everyone involved, even if it did kind of ruin what I was always looking forward to every year, E3 as a gamer. But either way,
Yeah.
they put this out there that the Switch 2 and its specs and what it can do and how powerful it is and all that stuff, what's going to release with it, like Mario Kart World or whatever it is, and things like that with a bundle. But they notoriously they conveniently did not say anything about price. They revealed that the Switch 2 itself is going to be $450, US dollars, I should say. And this was I should clarify this at the time this was announced, it will be $450. They said that the new games for it will be $80, officially pushing the new price of video games from 70, which is already too expensive, to 80. And the last time that someone did that from 60 to 70 and from 50 to 60, I also pointed out, the rest of the industry followed suit. That is what happened. Okay. And as of right now, they've since delayed it because obviously with tariff situations, they don't know exactly how much what is going to be. But ultimately, it is going to release this year, the Switch 2, in, I believe, June. Thoughts on that on the outset, Kason? Because this was not something I was necessarily planning to get. I follow this because we've talked about gaming and video games and as they pertain to pop culture, trends beyond things in popular culture in a recreational space.
Uh,
Thoughts at
yeah,
all?
yeah. I mean, first I'll start by pouring one out for E3 and
Yeah.
G4. I vividly remember watching the Microsoft announcement for the Kinect. Like
Yeah.
when they announced that,
What a wild
that
time.
people went nuts for that.
Connect was the
Uh,
response to the Wii and then PlayStation Move. All that was a really weird
yeah.
era of gaming, man. The
Yeah,
console wars at their peak.
I have some great memories with because it was always in the summer, and so I'd be able to watch it all day, and so it was awesome.
Love
But
E3.
anyway, yeah, I mean it's it is what it is. The Switch is kind of always the Nintendo consoles kind of always have their niche because it's not like they're in the same realm with like the power gamers for like the Xboxes and PlayStations because they're completely different
Or
because
PC.
it's not like you're getting a Switch to play Call of Duty. So
No.
it's like they're a very different thing. And so they exist in this kind of other realm and just as things are going, it's definitely very interesting to see them continuing to push the price up and up, and even now, probably even higher, for what I would say is like a increasingly less relevant console.
Hmm.
Uh,
I
I mean, nothing against it. It's just
no, I
it
actually agree with you.
I don't know of any Switch game I can't just play on my phone.
Well,
Like
right.
you know,
Well,
or sorry, let me
other than
rephrase.
like Mario games.
I wouldn't be like you wouldn't be able to play on a cell phone is what I'm saying.
Right.
Of like that's mostly my point.
In our case, we both have PlayStations. We do
Yeah.
because we talked about our online dynasty and things like that. I agree with you. I also would say, let's be real. Nintendo, for the most part, has banked on the children's market. Those are the
Yeah.
more of the games they push for their own with their cast of Mario characters and Legend of Zelda. Not that adults don't enjoy those games too, as I am one of them in the past. That's just what they've relied on. I really think that for a company that has always pushed the envelope in a different direction than the other two major console companies, they've always been about innovation of how you play, right?
Hmm.
And I remember thinking to myself, it'll be when the Wii kind of all died down and the Wii U was a little bit of a flop, but a little bit of ahead of its time. I always say the Wii U crawled and or got like completely destroyed in a vase so that the Switch could exist because they were perfecting the idea of the Switch
Hmm.
with the Wii U. I still will say to this day the Wii U is a console that there needs to be a requiem for it because we don't get the Switch without the Wii U. But the Switch, they kind of caught lightning in a bottle, and being able to play both of them, the handheld and on a screen, they finally did it. I remember thinking to myself, man, Sony, if they had really tried to perfect that technology with the one PSP hookup they had, Sony could have had this before Nintendo. But I think even Sony knew their repertoire of games was not going to be best suited on the handheld device. Shout out to the original PSP too, by the way, one of my favorite consoles of all time. That being said, Nintendo were the ones to do it, as it probably should be, quite frankly. And I think that's also a little bit of where this price gouge comes from. Don't get me wrong, I get that inflation's a thing and that games are just more expensive to make. But also, if you're Nintendo, it's like, yeah, but we're the only ones who make Mario games, Zelda games, things like that. So what are you going to do about it? Like, I do feel like there's a little bit of that going on here too.
Hmm.
It's sort of like, yeah, I mean, yeah, you could get angry about it, but you're going to shut up and pay for it if you want at some point.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
shout out to Nintendo, the brazenness of that. I mean, I just look around and I'm like, guys, they hear all your complaining and they're like, yeah, we get it. We just don't care. So I mainly kind of wanted to talk about that, but I do wonder. This is the bigger point I was going to bring up with you. I think these console companies have foreseen the end of console gaming because what are
Hmm.
these other two consoles and Xbox and PlayStation if not just a computer tower for your television? That's what they are.
Pretty much. Yeah.
And PC gamers out there would hear our conversation and say, "Oh, these guys are idiots. They don't even realize you can have the best gaming experience on the PC." No, I know that. I just, was never in a situation to pay that much money for a gaming PC. Everyone who games knows that the PC is the master race, as they all say. But at least they act that way. But uh, and I just think that maybe this is Nintendo saying they are going to probably continue being the console company. But I can also see a situation here where maybe we get one more round of consoles and then it's just updates for those consoles in the software. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
I I really think we're headed that way. Any thoughts on that?
No, I definitely can agree with that. I mean, I also think that like maybe the appetite for it is just kind of going down.
Mm.
Like I genuinely wonder if like gaming as it existed 15 years ago is going to be a thing in general,
Mm.
because I think it's just, I don't know. I mean, it's just like in my opinion, there's been a significantly more, or a more and more amount of decreased participation over like generations, if that makes sense. Like it like I just don't see, like today's fifth graders being super interested in like being hardcore gamers, if that makes sense. Because really all they do is like, I guess maybe sometimes play Fortnite or Roblox.
Well,
Like I don't really understand.
right. I
You know what I
think that
mean?
that's why I've often said that if you think about it, Fortnite as a game might go down as the most significant video game of all time. And I don't say that unironically, or I say that unironically because there that you can arguably say no game shifted the industry more than that one. With okay, we can just make one game that has the replayability of like multiplayer, but structured in a way to where we can always update it and it becomes the whole games as a service thing. I
Right.
will say that online gaming in the Xbox 360 Live days, like the Xbox Live days, paved the way for that structure. So we don't quite get
Mhm.
that without that. But I've always thought that in the last, I don't know what it's been, almost a decade that since Epic Games put out the Fortnite, the original Battle Royale version of it, and what it's become since, and what it's done to every other industry, I think that it's almost like we're entering the next phase
Uh,
of does that ecosystem just bleed into the next? You'll always have story games, but all these
well,
companies are
that's
thinking
also
in
kind of
terms
my
of
that's mainly my
monetization.
point of I
Yeah.
don't know if you will because with the attention span of like Gen Alpha and just kids these days,
Yeah.
I don't know if like this next generation is going to have the patience to play Skyrim or Final Fantasy
Right.
or
Like an
any
100
other
hour game.
yeah, even like in like Assassin's Creed, like it's just like the appetite for massive budget, massive story led
Open
games,
world games.
open world like
Yeah.
things that just that I I think the only consumers for that are people our age just getting older buying the same game we've been playing different
That's
versions of
that's
for
a
20
that's a good
years.
point. That's a really good
Like
point. Hence why
like like
hence why remasters and remakes are so popular because it's like, oh, they'll buy it again. And we
right.
will.
And
We have.
exactly. And it's just a my larger point is just like kids these days would not be able to handle Halo 3 lobbies from old the same way. It's just today's youth does not understand what it was like to be in the trenches.
that is that that's that's like top three favorite things you've ever said on the show, my friends. You have no
I
idea.
was
None of
forged
y'all
I
have
was
any
forged in
idea.
the fire of Halo 3 lobbies.
I could scream into this mic and just say, listen, y'all weren't there for Halo 3. Y'all weren't there for Halo 1. Some of us were there for Halo 1. Y'all weren't there for Call of Duty 4, all right? Or Modern Warfare 2, okay? So
I spent most of my middle school years it on Zanzibar and Halo 2.
dude,
I
that's awesome though. And it's I love that though. And it makes me think that is true that the like 100 plus hour like open world experience is like a dying breed. And he even got to the point in the last like 5 years, like kind of going into COVID and then post the pandemic, it was sort of like, all right, like this is like not every game has to be open world. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
We also can just have linear experiences that are really really good, like the Naughty Dog games. You know, that's what those are. So they're linear games. They're not open world games. So you're right, and maybe this is I do think this is Nintendo seeing the writing on the wall and saying, okay, listen, we get it, but it's if anything is proven true, it's that yeah, there's initial price backlash, but then people buy it anyway.
Yeah, pretty
So,
much. Yeah.
and hopefully, what I'm hoping is that I actually think $400 and some dollars is fine for the console. It's the gaming pike that I'm a little bit
Yeah.
worried about. But I digress. I mean, we're both sports gamers, and those are the only games that I have consistently throughout my life. A couple of them buy every year, and I deviate when a certain story game comes out, like i.e. Spider-Man, the Fallen Order Jedi games,
Mhm.
the Fallouts of the world, Fallout in the Bethesda games. So, uh, stick a pin in that because I think how the younger generation and those parents, the people who are teenagers to children right now and will be over the next 5 years, their reaction to the Nintendo stuff is what's going to really be something to watch. So, thank you, Casen, for humoring me
Mhm.
in that topic. I just wanted to chime in, and it did give us one of the best sound bites ever. That was incredible. Um, we is it time to go to Daredevil? Wrap it up.
Yeah, let's get into it.
So Daredevil is we haven't talked about Daredevil in like over a month, whatever it's been. We talked about the first two episodes. We're not going to go episode by episode here. Kason and I are fully caught up to episode 8. I believe 9 is the last one. The finale,
Yeah.
see, the season finale will be next week. So I figured this was just a time for us to talk about kind of this series kind of as a whole up to now and where things are leading into the finale. So spoiler warning for Daredevil if you're not caught up, because we're not going to go no spoilers. It's at this point it's impossible to do that. So it is.
Yeah.
It's completely impossible to do that. Other than, oh yeah, Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio are both incredible, and the writing's good. That's about it. All I can say, non spoiler. um. So yeah, man. We are at the precipice of the end, and before we get into kind of how we got here, well, maybe we should do that first. There's a lot to talk about, and like I said, we're not going to go episode by episode here, but the journey by which we've gotten to this circumstance, the dichotomy of these two characters, the parallels and the where they clash between Matt Murdock and Wilson Fisk has been on display this whole season. And I really have felt like this whole series has been both of them returning to form in their own way with a new
Mhm.
profound sense of where the city's at. Matt in his righteousness, but also flawed and at times self harm type way, as his girlfriend Heather put it over the course of the last few episodes, and Wilson Fisk in his just downright evil way. I don't know how else to say it. I mean, just a dude who is at his core very pure evil, but thinks he's doing right by doing these things. So I'll let you open us of wherever you want to take this. I know there lots happened. There might have been something you wanted to ask me about up to now. So go for it.
Yeah. Oof.
I,
Um,
I know. It's
so we
dense.
we talked about the first two episodes, and so it's just like after that, yeah, I mean, I think it was cool to see Bernthal show up for a little bit. I'm assuming he'll come back at 9, or come back in episode 9
Or
for something.
next season.
I'm sure he's in next season, but I feel like it'd be weird if his only appearance this season is like that is like that one conversation.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. Um,
One of the best scenes in the entire show, I will say, so far. Where,
it was really, I think, important
yeah,
for, yeah, for the
Frank
characters for
Castle
sure.
was the first person to actually say to Matt, "This whole thing's been about Foggy," like,
Yeah.
and do it in a way that shows him he's like, "Dude, I understand. Like, I get it. I really do," and he does. So, yeah, it was very, very well acted. I brought a tear to my eye. I'll put it that way. It really did.
Yeah, I think it's been a great, I think, way of kind of showing how, I guess you could say, how he's sort of like fallen apart, like like he's gone completely unstable, I think, as far as
Matt, you
who
mean?
you think of. Matt, yeah,
Yeah,
after the death of Foggy, it's just
I
like
agree.
he's sort of lost his own motivations because everything's clouded by, anger. And it's an interesting storyline. I mean, it's an interesting way to just see, because he kind of always had his own compass, and this completely knocked it out of, the out of stability, and every decision he makes is now just completely focused on that one thing.
Yeah, it is. And moving into the second, that's the main takeaway from episode 4. Episode 5 was the only episode in this season that I would call a filler episode. And you know which one I'm talking about, the bank heist one.
Hmm.
It was a great episode, but I understand why they released 5 and 6 the same week. You know what I mean? I totally understood why they did that because I was like, yeah, if they did that, I would be sitting here saying, it's cool. It's a St. Patrick's Day episode, but it's just him taking down some bank heists and just showing how cool Matt is. Um,
I
and
do think
he meets Kamala's dad. and
Yeah,
everything.
absolutely bizarre crossover. Like
Yeah.
when that was not what I was expecting.
Yeah,
Because
tonally, I was like, those
yeah,
two.
like what?
There better be no other references to her in here. It just better be him, because tonally, these two shows are just so completely different. So no, like yeah, like the darkest, grittiest section of the non-movie TV shows, arguably crosses with the Disney Channel show. So it's like anyway,
I have a feeling that that's going to come up at some point.
yeah,
That like there's going to be some sort of reference to what that was in the vault. I think I don't know. I would imagine I would be surprised if there was literally zero reason for that to exist, because for the amount of rewrites that the show went through,
yeah.
keeping that in there doesn't make any sense if it
Well,
doesn't serve a
it
purpose
wasn't
later.
even a rewrite. They scrapped everything they had and started from the ground up again.
Right.
So like I well, it looked like it straight up looked like an infinity stone, the diamond. And
It did. It
I was
did.
like, all right, so are they about to tell me that this is another soul stone or something stupid like that? But no, they didn't do that. It just was a gem that was wanted by those guys, the Irish gang and everything. And I will say, when Matt tracked him down and took him out in the alleyway, that was amazing. I was like, this guy isn't getting away. What do you think this is? It's like,
I do think maybe that was the point, was to serve as the vehicle of, Matt realizing what he has to do
yeah.
potentially.
Well, because when they showed the guy with the red mask, I'm like, so he's definitely going to end up with that on by the end of this, right? And he's going to somehow take all them. Like it just he can't tell what color it is, but he's like, oh, it's. But that was a good episode. I do like how, and this bleeds into my thoughts in episode 6. I like how they're through this show pulling all of the New York grounded heroes together slowly,
Hmm.
because then Jack from Hawkeye is in the next episode, because Fisk is at his party and he's trying to his first elitist party. He's trying to get funding for his doc thing, and um, Jack's there straight up. And earlier in that episode, the kid has a swordsman on his
Hmm.
has the swordsman on there, and I'm like, that's either Jack or Kate Bishop or some sort of thing. But I'm like, but it wouldn't be Kate Bishop because at this point there's no Ronin thing, so that has to be Jack or someone connected to Hawkeye in some way. And they did that. They did that in that episode. So you got these two episodes that kind of again more interlocking of the universes, right? And I kept thinking to myself, there's no way we're getting through this whole season without some sort of Daredevil, some sort of Hawkeye connection to this, right? Because we got a whole episode with Kamala's dad, so it was like, okay, well, okay. Episode 6 again introduces Muse as a character, which I thought it was interesting how that was kind of opened and shut in 2 episodes. I did
Yeah, I
I
thought that
didn't
was
really
weird.
love that, to be honest. That's like my one thing. It's my one thing so far that I haven't loved about this season.
Well,
I will admit.
because they were sort of leading up to that the whole season up until that, because
Right.
you were seeing
The
them talk
murals.
about people, you were seeing the murals, you were seeing the people disappear, and then you saw Muse in the tunnels like a couple episodes before that, and so they were teasing the Muse thing way before that, and then for it to just kind of be over, it was like, okay,
Well,
that's
if I'm not mistaken, we saw Muse for the first time in like episode 4, right? And then all of 5 happens. And
yeah,
then
yeah,
6
yeah,
is
yeah.
when it actually goes into motion of, oh no, this guy's actually, it's in the recaps. And when I go episode to episode, the reason I watch the recaps at the beginning is so that I know whatever they're referencing in the recap is about to happen in this episode, is about to be readdressed. Because you wouldn't be reminding me
Mhm.
of something that happened in episode 2 otherwise, you know? Um, the other thing I thought was interesting is, so 6 happens, they establish what Muse's deal is. Matt goes, tracks him down, and you have that parallel shot of him doing Daredevil stuff while Fisk is punishing, Adam, who had an affair with his wife, and that was quite the reveal as well. I was like, well, this is okay, like, and I remember in that scene there, it's like, where is Adam now? He's like, I don't know. I'm like, dude, he knows where he is. He's got to know where this guy is. is Wilson Fisk. I mean, come on, he knows he does, and he did. But not getting into too much of the darkness there. Daredevil's officially back. He gets Muse, saves the girl, all that. And then the next episode, I don't know about you, but because I watched that episode recap and they showed that kid who was at her book signing, when he walked into the office, I immediately said out loud, "That's Muse. That's Muse, right? This kid we saw is
Yeah, yeah.
Muse. It has to be. There's no one else here unless they're about to tell me that Dex got out and had a full 180 and here we go." But again, the fact that that was it all goes down, he ends up dead, all that. The fact that that all went down, like we established what Muse was doing, that we were looking for him, and then took him out in the next episode 7, and I'm like, okay, so that's gonna have nothing to do with the he's gonna have nothing to do with the finale of the season. It just felt like, okay, so Muse was the vehicle by which we just got Daredevil back, basically. It just felt
Yeah.
like that, you know what I mean? And we established the task force thing, which is straight from the comics. Thought that was cool, but that's my one criticism of the show so far. I have to see how it ends. I have to see how it
I
ends.
will say
Yeah,
it's strange to me. I don't know. I mean, I think that they probably are approaching these two seasons as far as the overarching plot arc as if it is still one 18 episode season. Like it feels to me like this is how you would write like a part 1 and part 2 of a season, where rather than it being towards the end of season 1, it's like in the middle of the season.
I get
Like
what you mean.
you know what I
That's
mean?
that's a really good point because I had forgotten until you just told me that this was initially going to be an 18 episodes one season. Which,
So I
yeah.
feel like which I get, like 18 episodes via streaming is just a lot at
Oh,
one time.
dude, I don't even know how Disney Plus would have been like. I don't care if you're going to do 18 episodes. We're doing it in 2 seasons. And maybe
Yeah.
that's what happened. Maybe that's what happened. Genuinely.
I think that yeah, they probably from the beginning of when it was originally an 18 episode season, they probably mapped out where they wanted to go for all 18, and then they kind of split it up. And
Well,
so I think
yeah,
rather than
yeah.
it being 6/7 out of 9, think of it as 6/7 out of 18. And so
Yeah,
it's
when you put it
I
that way,
I, I
yeah.
think we're in for a lot more in the second season for sure.
You're
I
right,
would be
because this season, as great as it's been, has been mostly set up. I think I even told you I was like, I
yeah.
don't want Fisk to not be mayor by the end of this season, and I kind of wouldn't mind if Daredevil isn't all the way back yet either, which he kind of is, kind of isn't really right now. Like Matt's done a couple of things as Daredevil, but I'm not going to sit here and say by the end of even episode 8, Daredevil's fully back
Well,
yet. You
I
know.
don't know for sure where he stands now.
Well, yeah, good point. When you're Lang having gotten shot by Dex at the end of episode 8, it's like, oh, well, we're just okay. But I will say this, moving ahead real quick. I like that Matt is now literally in the same spot his friend was at in the first episode.
Yeah.
He's kind of between life and death. Like he's been through all this stuff. Let's be real. Still a hero out to the core to save whoever Dex was trying to shoot there. Because I looked like he was trying to take out Fisk, but for him to jump in front of the bullet, I'm like, yeah, he's a hero, man. I don't know what to tell you. But if that was the case, Fisk saw him do that, and that's gonna mess with his head
Yeah.
because
Oh, yeah.
yeah, because
Yeah.
now he's gonna owe Daredevil, and he knows
And
that.
he's gonna be so mad about
He's gonna be
it.
very mad about. That's what I'm seriously. He's gonna be so mad about that. Like I'd be dead if it wasn't for this guy. And that's the thing. I think that's gonna be fascinating to see bleed even into episode 9 and into potentially the next season. I'm like, you talk about a dichotomy between these two characters, man. Didn't see that coming. I will say, uh, what's his name? Ben Poindexter, Dex, because I
Mhm.
call him that. Man, they have made him so cool of just like he can just throw random objects and take someone out with him. I'm like, well, yeah, that's why his hands are constantly cuffed because like you can't let his hands get out. Like, but when he escaped the way he escaped, and I actually have it written down here that I wrote it down when I watched this episode because I wanted to ask about this. Matt is under the assumption that Fisk got him kind of set in motion the things that got Dex taken out, let him escape, I should say. And it became very obvious that no, I don't think that Fisk meant for him to escape. Because remember, he calls the guy and he's like, back Buck or whatever his name is like, hey, tell
No,
me,
no,
tell
no,
me he's dead. I'm like, oh, he's not dead. He escaped. I'm like, oh, wait
no.
a minute.
I think he knows that Fisk did that to kill him because there
Okay,
was a conversation that he was having
with Matt,
when what's her name, his partner at the law firm, the when
Christine, I
when
think.
she,
Yeah,
yeah, when she told him that he got moved to Gen Pop, he
that's
was like,
right.
oh, that's basically a death sentence.
Yeah, it is.
So he knows that the intention was to have him get killed.
Yeah, that's right. So, and then of course he was having that whole thing happen and everything, and he calls and he's like, no, he escaped.
Yeah,
So,
because his theory
yeah.
is that Fisk was doing it as a loose end, but I think Fisk actually did it. I mean, maybe, but I think it was maybe more of a thing of like he just didn't want him around. He just wanted him dead.
Well,
Like
right, and initially I thought to myself because
because he didn't know that it was that it was Vanessa the whole
Matt's
time.
able to Matt's able to figure out through his pulse, listening that oh snap, like Dex is on the loose. Vanessa hired him. Fisk does not know that because I thought to myself, if Fisk knew that, he would have had Dex killed immediately to protect her.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? So I was like, interesting. This is fascinating. And we'll see kind of what happens with this whole thing. There's nothing I love more, by the way. I love black tie gala type episodes of TV and movies. I just think they're cool scenes usually because I think regardless of your walk of life, we can all relate into walking into a big group of people, whether you're dressed up or not, and like 50 different things and conversations are happening at once. And to me, it makes for very good storytelling. It's like, okay, we're following our protagonist over here. These three different things are happening over here. These two characters are back here. And all the while, that's happening outside. You know what I mean? It just, I really like black tie type, big room ball type episodes of TV or movies, scenes in movies. Can you tell I like James Bond as well? Uh,
Yeah, right.
the amount of times that's been a thing. But so I thought it was awesome. I thought that was fascinating. I have no idea where this leads to. I already kind of said it. I don't know how this wraps up. How this, as you said, first half of the season kind of
The only thing that makes sense to me is like I don't know. I really didn't like uh Heather in this episode. I thought she was very
annoying.
annoying. Mostly because it's just like he's Daredevil. Like shut up.
Yeah.
Like he saved your life.
Can you just figure it out? Well, and see, that's actually what I thought to myself. I thought they were going to do a thing at the end of the last episode where she just finds out that he's Daredevil. Because I think
I don't know how she can't.
she's connecting the
Like she has
dots.
to in the final episode.
Right.
Yeah.
She's connecting the dots and like this is definitely gonna like she's definitely gonna find out in episode 9, like he's Daredevil. Like and it would immediately make everything cool. And what I kind of hope it leads to, being real with you, I hope she's just 100% down an ally of him in the next season. Like, because that's essentially what Karen and Foggy became. Because it's like, yeah, we're not okay with this, but we understand he's doing it for X amount of reasons. They were just straight up his allies towards the end there.
I honestly don't know
I don't
because
know either.
she based on the conversation they were having,
Right.
she doesn't seem to be the world's biggest fan of Daredevil in general.
Correct. And I can see
Uh,
that. I think it's more likely based on the writing that it goes the opposite direction.
yeah.
I don't think she becomes an ally of Fisk per se, but I can now see her as another obstacle to him in this whole thing. Um, and unfortunately, it is another person who knows he's Daredevil. But I can also see oh wow, I can see why you do these things. I can see that. But maybe that's the lazy way out. I don't know. I don't know what I think would be better writing at this point.
I have a feeling that she's going to come at it from some like she's gonna like therapize him for what he's doing under the mask and it's just not gonna go well.
Yeah, because they have been planting that seed because it's like, oh, you're doing that therapy talk. I don't like that. And the kid was saying that to him. It's like, yeah, he's like, I hate it too. So I'm like, well, your girlfriend's a therapist, so that's probably going to cost some. It was like when it said, "Are you doing?" It's like when he was injured and everything, and she saw it. It's like
Hmm.
you doing that thing, and it's like, "Are you doing this because I have to ask you? Are you doing this because of some sort of like self harm or something?" And I'm like, eh. I remember, I remember sitting there. I was like, eh. There's a little bit of that going on here.
Yeah.
He's got a tremendous amount of trauma. What can I say? He does. He's also got superpowers. So yeah, I agree. I loved hearing you say that, Casen. He's Daredevil. Shut up. Just let him cook. Let him cook, man. He's got to save people, and he did in this episode, man. So I'm excited. I
Yeah.
we'll
I
write this
will
show up at
say,
the end. We'll do our Marvel rating hopefully next week or next time
yeah,
we talk about it.
I will say I find it I mean Michael Gandolfini's character is just really really interesting to me
Yeah, I
because
keep coming back
he
to him.
yeah, he's probably going to become a bigger and bigger part, especially in next season, because there's this B story of his relationship with BB, and like that's gonna go somewhere to where like not to get dark with this, but he's going to have to make a decision
Yeah.
like about because like they're going to catch her doing something like
Yes.
I think somebody saw her talking to the commissioner. So my theory is that like Kingpin's guys are going to get a hold of BB and then that guy is going to have to make a decision that's basically like life or death for her.
Mm-hmm. And how he and Fisk has been grooming this kid Daniel to be absolute
Yeah.
loyalist, right?
Yeah.
Which, at least on the onset to Fisk, he seems to be. But he's talking to BB at a point in this episode where it's like, look, I have to play the game. I'm on the inside right now. This is crazy. Look what we're doing. Like, even he has had moments where he has slipped up and noticed he's a little bit over his head too. So it's sort of, and he knows that. I really think he does. So I keep thinking to myself, yeah, he's either going to become an absolute loyalist and replace Buck somehow, or and that's going to be the trigger, and a line's going to be crossed, or this is going to lead to some sort of like situation where he completely backfires on Fisk, and we finally see the Kingpin slip up. You know what I mean? We finally
Hmm.
see him slip up. And I think to myself, I'm okay with either one. I think the boring thing probably is if he's just the next loyalist guy, and maybe we don't even get it this season. Maybe it's next season. But I'm like, it would be really cool if this like protege kid ends up flipping on Fisk and helps take him down. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It would just be awesome. There's no one who deserves it more. I'm just saying. um, yeah,
The other thing too that I at least wanted to point out was
yeah.
the episode I think it was six,
Hmm.
the one that ended with the guy going to the restaurant to kill Fisk.
It was 7.
It was seven. Okay.
It was 7. Yep.
Yeah. So
Luca, that
the
guy.
I I wanted so bad for that to just end Soprano style of like he just opens the door and then cut to black.
I would have been sitting here like, what happened? What? Wait a minute. That or like they show it at the beginning of the next episode. It's like, I mean, this guy's gonna die, right? Like for sure. I also think they've done a good job at showing that Vanessa was always capable of this evil too. Like she
Hmm.
really is kind of the perfect partner in crime, which she is in the comics too. Like she's
She
very
she's
much a
she's
villain
not
in
a
the comics
victim.
too.
Yeah, she's not a victim here. Like
No,
she's
no, no, no.
definitely complicit.
She's an 1,000% an accomplice and absolutely is in a lot of ways as evil as Wilson Fisk.
Which
So
I think they did a good job of kind of showing throughout the season so far of like there was definitely a lot of like is she just kind of in this there was a lot of like gray area at the beginning of the season and then more and more information comes along and then boom episode 8 she kills Adam.
yeah,
It's revealed she sent the hit out on Foggy, so it's like oh she is just brutal and ruthless too,
yeah,
like she is
and
equally
it's
the
and
queen pin.
when they in she's the queen pin. I like the way to put that. She is, and the thing about it is her relationship getting to know Wilson in the first season. It's revealed that there's some dark stuff in her past too She was probably capable of this kind of thing. And it's almost like those two are bringing out the true sides of each other. You know, when that
Mhm.
scene with Adam happens with the three of them, I thought to myself, well, I guess no more therapy needed. That it
Yeah.
felt like that was the end of that whole arc, right? And then she literally says to Heather at the party, "We don't need that. We don't need you anymore. We worked it out." I'm like, they have worked it out. They had the absolute loyalty moment happen between them and their sick relationship. So
Yeah. Yeah.
anyway, I'm excited, man. We'll rate this up at the end of at the end of the next episode. That's all I wanted to say. I have enjoyed this thoroughly. This is what we should expect as far as like the writing of the MCU TV stories. And to be fair, we've had this. We've had
Mhm.
episodes that have been written this well. I would argue WandaVision was this well written for the shows we've had them. There have been ups and downs. There have been and for as much of a letdown as like Secret Invasion was, there were some scenes and moments through that were really great. And so, yeah, I mean, it just feels like, you know, for this being the MCU's true take on this kind of storytelling, they're knocking it out of the park, man. Pun intended.
Yeah, I mean it's been really interesting and exciting to see sort of just the free reign that they've given the show to be,
Absolutely.
as dark as they need it, as um I guess for lack of a better way to say it, as mature TVMA type of stuff that they need.
But not
Um
but not overdoing it. Like
right, right.
I at no point have felt, okay, they're using violence for violence sake here. I felt like that sometimes in the old Daredevil show. For this, I'm like, no, it gets Daredevil, it gets violent when things go down. Like, you know. So I'm getting much more enjoyment out of the character interactions than I am
Yeah.
even the action, which is
Yeah.
fantastic.
It's definitely kind of crazy just to like to hear some of the, like when you hear some of the language they're using, you're like,
Oh
oh, this is a
yeah.
Disney, this is a
Oh yeah.
Disney Plus MCU
Oh
show.
yeah. This is a Disney Plus MCU show. Oh, interesting. Cool. Okay. But what we do now exist in a post Daredevil and Wolverine MCU.
Yeah,
We
right.
exist in that world now. So it's like, yeah, we could see that happen. And who knows? I mean, as they've ramped up and put
Guardians
the
3
cast
ripped the
out there,
Band-Aid off.
Guardians 3 ripped the band-aid off. Now we have that, and then we have I mean, I can see more mature things like that happening as we move into Doomsday. Now that the cast
Mhm.
is out there and everything. I will say with that reveal of the chairs, when Robert Downey Jr. like did the shush and pointed at him at the end, I thought, okay, I'm in. I'm all the way in. I'm all the way back in. I don't care what happens, man. I was like, we got to get the Avengers together because we got to stop that guy.
As a side note, about that, the more and more we get information about this and the closer we get to it, it feels a lot more like it is going to be some kind of variant of Tony Stark or
Oh, it
something.
is. It's going to be a
Like, yeah,
variant.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like it feels like it's not going to be just, oh, this is Victor Von Doom. It's like
No, but
completely ignoring the
they
fact that
might
it's,
call him that, but I can also see them saying that no, it's a Tony Stark that went bad and now calls himself that. You know,
yeah.
I can see them doing that too. So,
I have faith that they'll make it like make sense as to why it's Robert Downey Jr. for sure.
yep. And now that
Mm.
the marketing has ramped up for Thunderbolts, which I will go on record saying I think that could be the surprise of the year. In that, I think that could be the new Avengers feeling movie that we all want, and I think it could be an
Mhm.
absolute smash hit. I actually believe that. It's got all the comic relief characters. I'm still at a loss of how they're going to take out Sentry. I'm still sitting here like, how are these regular people going to take out essentially Superman? Okay, I don't know. I guess we'll find out.
Yeah, we'll see.
But maybe they'll find another way to save the day. But so there's that. I have one last question for you, Kasen. One last question.
Okay.
If you were going to go see a movie this weekend, are you seeing the new Ryan Coogler movie with Michael B. Jordan, Haley Steinfeld, obviously the cast of characters Sinners, which is a phenomenon um, with all of these MCU esque people who have helped in the past, or depending on the theater you go to, what might be a much better time, the Minecraft movie. Which one are you going? Are you rolling the dice? Which one are you rolling the dice with? That's a real question. I want to hear an answer right now to wrap up the show. And I want to hear your
I
reasoning behind it
okay, okay. Uh,
because I really have to
yeah,
think
I
about this.
mean, yeah, I don't know. I sure I would probably say the Minecraft movie for the
Yes.
experiment for the experience. Not going to, but if I had to choose, I
Oh
would say
man,
that.
if you haven't seen it, there is a video of a guy who brought a live chicken into and it's one of the funniest videos I've ever seen on the internet. I was like, these people, but also I also feel for the workers who have said that this few they've taken to TikTok and said I've worked in movie theaters X amount of years and this is by far the worst experience I've had in a movie theater. Like I've been amazed at how trash these theaters have been. So when you hear when you go to see Sinners potentially this weekend, and you hear just screaming lunatics in the next theater over to you, right next to it, you'll be thinking, "Oh yeah, Minecraft movie." I know that because of Junction
Yeah,
119.
yeah.
I also would pick the Minecraft movie. I'm not saying I'm going to see it, but my thing about it is, I'll be real with you. I don't love like scary movies, but apparently that's not really what this is. But there are horror elements to it. Um, but I don't know if you saw today. Out of 30 reviews, Sinners has an 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. I'm like, well,
Hmm.
that's like the least surprising news I could
Yeah,
have. I,
yeah.
I mean, look at it; it looks pretty cool. So
I would agree with. Yeah, it definitely looks like it's well done, and
definitely,
Ryan Coogler. I'm sure it's a good movie on
it
substance.
Coogler's got. I think Coogler after the MCU stuff, I could definitely see becoming like a Jordan Peele esque,
Yeah.
person who makes like all these social commentary. The next Jordan Peele movie is going to be called Him, and it's going to be about the quarterbacks, like the up and coming quarterback being
Oh,
trained by the Tom Brady esque like really successful quarterback. But apparently there's really dark undertones and stuff. Go look that up because I think that's going to be something we might have to talk about. Casen,
interesting.
at
Interesting.
some point. Go look that up. I'm not going to talk about it now. We've said all of what you need to say. Thank you for answering my question, Casen. Uh, this is Kellan,
This is Casen.
and we'll see you as always at the next stop.